So if you work in research, design, or data, I'm guessing you've felt it, that creeping anxiety about just how fast AI is advancing right now. It's moving incredibly fast. But in this explainer, we're tackling that exact anxiety head on. As your mentor through this massive shift, I really want us to completely reframe how we look at these tools. We have to stop viewing AI as a replacement and start seeing it for what it actually is, the ultimate assistant that's going to fundamentally elevate your craft.
This whole paradigm shift is perfectly captured by senior user researcher Maria DeCaris. She said, "I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do my art and writing." I mean, how spot on is that? In our world, the laundry is all those tedious ops tasks, right? Setting up study links, answering repetitive process questions, calculating recruitment costs. The goal here is to let AI handle those chores so you can actually focus on your art, that deeply strategic, human-centered work that genuinely drives the business.
So, to get you to that state of elevated focus, here's our roadmap. We'll start by overcoming the fear of AI. Then we'll get into automating your research laundry. After that, we'll explore playgrounds and synthetic personas. And finally, we'll talk about preserving your human intuition. All right, part one, overcoming the fear of AI and confronting the uncomfortable truth. UX leader Caitlin McRae points out something kind of tough to hear. Researchers have gotten a little too precious about our traditional craft. Look, businesses are moving at lightning speed right now, and if we cling tightly to strict old-school rules, like, say, forcing every single project to be 5 traditional interviews, we honestly risk making ourselves dispensable. If we opt out of these uncomfortable conversations about AI and velocity, our role is going to be redefined for us, or worse, entirely without us. But hey, here's the incredibly empowering part. The barrier to entry for adjacent technical skills has literally never been lower. You don't have to wait around to bribe an engineer with coffee to fix a survey trigger anymore. You don't need a data scientist to pull a query for you. You can step up, use AI tools to write code or query databases autonomously, and just own your projects completely end-to-end. Which brings us to part two, automating your research laundry by building an ops assistant. Let's look at a real-world example here, an AI operations assistant built by a totally non-technical researcher in just half a day. Half a day! It really brilliantly shows how simple no-code tools are now. Basically, you just gather up your existing help articles, your process docs, your tool guides, and you wrap them in a tight prompt. It just needs 4 things. You assign a role, define the goal, specify the format, and, this is crucial, set a failure mode. Now, I need you to pay really close attention to that last step, because setting the failure mode is absolutely the most critical part of this whole operation. If the AI doesn't know the answer based strictly on your provided documents, you have to explicitly instruct it to say, "I don't know." If you skip this, the model's just going to guess and hallucinate fabricated data. A strict failure mode is literally the only thing preventing you from handing embarrassing, fake metrics over to your stakeholders. Moving right along to part 3, playgrounds and synthetic personas, and how we're moving beyond static reports. Seriously, it is time to move past those traditional, text-heavy deliverables that, let's be honest, nobody actually reads. Contrast the before times of those ancient history 50-page static monthly reports with our new era. I mean, by the time a 50-page report used to land on someone's desk, the data was already dead. Today, it's all about live, interactive data playgrounds. You can pipe together unstructured data from sales calls, Slack messages, whatever, so stakeholders can jump in and directly follow the analytical threads themselves.
And the autonomy we have now goes even further. Check out this wild anecdote. A researcher needed to set up an in-product survey, but the trigger event just didn't exist in the system. Normally, that's a total dead end. But instead, they used a code-based AI tool called Cursor to actually read their company's GitHub. They figured out the code themselves and shipped their very first pull request to fix the trigger. Just like that, they completely unblocked themselves. No way we could do that 2 years ago. Now, this kind of rapid experimentation also extends to synthetic personas, which I know is a really hot topic that makes a lot of traditional researchers super uncomfortable. But we can experiment with them responsibly. The trick here is to train them using a strict lexicon of real customer interviews that are already stored in your database, so they actually sound like your real users. Use them for rapid ideation or to build empathy? Sure. But remember your mentor's golden rule here. Never, ever use synthetic personas for high-risk final decision-making.
All right, let's hit our final section. Part 4, preserving your human intuition, the absolute core of the craft. So this brings us to the ultimate fear, right? If we automate all of this execution, do we end up losing our deeply human intuition? Well, staff UX researcher Morteza Bar explains that our refined taste as researchers is built through a continuous loop. We execute research, we learn, we reflect, and that reflection is what builds the intuition. It's exactly this messy, human, emotional context that AI simply cannot replicate. And what's really fascinating here is that this is actually a two-way street. AI doesn't have the rich context or the tribal knowledge of your specific organization. It has no idea why a certain product decision was made 3 years ago. So AI actually requires your intuition, your deeply earned human tastes to execute its automated tasks correctly and safely. So, to maintain your craft, you have to deliberately create these intuition syncing moments. Before you just ask an AI to draft a study, force yourself to write out a detailed context paragraph feeding it your tribal knowledge. Ask the AI to deliberately surface data outliers so you're forced to get into the weeds. And keep up those messy, late-night brainstorming habits by actively debating your hypotheses with the AI. You have to stay deeply involved in the intellectual process. Researcher Sasha Mitz uses this brilliant analogy to bring it all together. Think of yourself and AI as climbers on a mountain. If you're uncoupled, just trusting the AI blindly without a strong mental model, you're ascending dangerously with mismatched goals. But as coordinated climbers, you deliberately tether your human mental model to the AI's capabilities. You verify, you guide, and you safely conquer the mountain together. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final challenge. Stop stubbornly protecting your old methods out of fear. You now have this incredible suite of tools to automate the laundry and get back to making your art. So, look at your daily workflows tomorrow, find the friction, and ask yourself, what is the uncomfortable technical edge that you are going to confidently experiment with? Thanks for diving in with me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.